I got a call from a Skull Valley charter officer. Get to the clubhouse right now.
The gold is smuggled out of Colombia and brought here to the United States to sell the gold to fund international criminal organizations.
When the Hells Angels rolled up on that cartel convoy at the Texas border, they thought they'd hit the jackpot. Maybe gold, maybe guns. But inside one of those crates was something no outsider was ever meant to witness. Something that sent both the cartel and the U.S. government into immediate panic. Picture this: a line of Harleys tearing through the Texas heat. Chrome flashing under the sun, engines growling like thunder. The most notorious motorcycle club in America wasn't looking for trouble, yet trouble found them. At the razor-thin edge of the Rio Grande, beneath that scorching border sky, they rode straight into an operation so large, so heavily armed, that even the cartel's own sicarios froze at the sight of them. And the Angels? Turning back was never...
We are given instructions to go to a petrol station on the edge of town. Vetted by cartel security, we eventually get the clearance we need to continue on.
At first, everyone figured it was just another smuggling route, one more forgotten stretch of the Texas border. But what the Hells Angels rode into wasn't cocaine, meth, or even guns. It was gold, literal tons of it, melted down, disguised, and funneled north from Colombia through Mexico, crossing the Texas line to fuel a $10 billion empire. This wasn't just about narcotics. This network controlled governments, shipping ports, and even fragments of the U.S. economy itself. And now, the Angels had rolled straight into the heart of it. They'd taken this route before Hidalgo Bridge, the back roads, the usual run between their Arizona and New Mexico charters. But this time felt different. As dawn cracked over the desert, they spotted convoys, new Ford Raptors, unmarked trucks moving in tight formation, not cops, not border patrol. The riders tailed them from a distance until they saw it. An industrial fortress tucked near the Rio Grande, bristling with armed guards, drones, and buried heat sensors. It wasn't a drug lab, it was a gold refinery. Homeland Security would later confirm what few dared whisper. Illicit gold had overtaken cocaine as the cartel's new currency, washing billions through fake mines, shell firms, and smuggling routes. Each shipment could bankroll a narco state. For the Hells Angels, this wasn't supposed to happen. They were just headed to a meet near Brownsville, but by the time they hit Hidalgo, the roads had gone silent. No locals, no troopers, just tension. Then they saw them. Men in tactical gear, not law enforcement, but narcos trained like soldiers, guarding something priceless. Former ATF agent J.J. Jaybird Dobbins, who once infiltrated the gang, had warned about this kind of collision. "The Hells Angels don't back down," he said. "Push into their path and they'll push back even if it means going to war."
The banditos are coming to Las Vegas. Las Vegas is our territory, and they have not requested a hall pass. We expect you to shoot them before they get the kickstands down on their motorcycle.
But this time, it wasn't the Banditos, and it wasn't a rival biker club. It was the Sinaloa Cartel, or what remained of its empire north of the border. According to former Special Forces operative Jason Fox, the cartel's influence doesn't stop at Mexico's edge. It bleeds into Texas, Arizona, and California, carried by contractors, smugglers, and hired local muscle. And intelligence reports hinted that one of those muscle networks might have included members of the Hells Angels themselves. That's what made this encounter different. It wasn't random. It was a collision between two criminal powerhouses, one born from American rebellion, the other from Mexican blood. When the Angels rolled up to the compound, they didn't dial the cops. They called their contacts people who moved product, ran logistics, and managed export routes. Within an hour, the truth surfaced. The site wasn't a drug lab at all. It was a gold refinery, part of an illicit mining pipeline stretching from Colombia to Texas, tied to groups like Clan del Golfo and the ELN. The gold was mined with toxic mercury, smuggled through Panama, refined in Mexico, then laundered through shell companies in Texas. On paper, it looked like a clean operation. In reality, it was the cartel's new cocaine, more discreet, more profitable, and far safer to move. But the Angels didn't know that yet. What they saw were flatbeds stacked with gold bars, watched over by men in tactical armor, AR-15s, night vision, precision movements. The tension broke with silence. It started with a stare. Rico, a road captain, stepped forward and asked one question. "Who do you work for?" The guard didn't answer. He just glanced over his shoulder, and within seconds, half a dozen rifles were leveled at the bikers. That's when the Angels realized this wasn't a smuggling stop or a backroom deal. They'd just rolled into a fortified cartel checkpoint, guarding a billion-dollar empire. Then a man stepped out from the shadows, the patrol leader, known only as El Güero, a name whispered across Sinaloa's killing fields. The Sinaloa connection was no longer a rumor. It was standing right in front of them.
None of us knew it at the time, but this would be the last interview Güero would ever give.
But this Güero wasn't in a TV documentary.
But this Güero wasn't some face from a documentary. He was real, standing in the desert heat, staring down a line of outlaw bikers and trying to decide whether to let them ride away or bury them where they stood. For 45 tense seconds, no one moved. Then Rico broke the silence with 4 words. "We're not cops, man. Everything changed." The guards lowered their rifles. The air shifted. The Angels weren't law enforcement, and they weren't rivals. They were outlaws, just like the men guarding that compound. Güero smirked, nodded once, and motioned for them to follow. That moment marked the beginning of something no one could have predicted: an unholy alliance between the Hells Angels and the remnants of the Sinaloa cartel, forged in greed, distrust, and a shared hatred for one thing: the United States government. That night, one of the Angels texted a contact in Arizona. "We found something big. Not drugs, gold. Maybe billions." Within hours, the message reached an informant working with Homeland Security investigations in McAllen, Texas. Federal agents had been tracking gold smuggling routes for months from Miami to Texas, each linked to cartel-owned refineries. But this was the first time anyone had eyes on one in real time. By dawn, federal surveillance drones filled the sky. The Angels' phones lit up with cryptic warnings. Then, just before sunrise, gunfire. The compound erupted as U.S. agents stormed the site, raiding the very operation the bikers had stumbled upon. Bullets tore through the dry air. Sirens wailed across the Rio Grande. And when the smoke cleared, something inexplicable had happened. The Hells Angels were gone. Not arrested, not killed, just vanished. No bikes, no bodies, nothing but empty tracks in the dust. Agents later called it a ghost evacuation. One minute, a dozen bikers surrounded by cartel convoys; the next, nothing but silence. That disappearance sparked the rumors. Maybe the Angels hadn't found the gold refinery by accident. Maybe they were part of it all along. 2 weeks later, across the Mexican border, journalist Miguel Ortega received a video. It showed a convoy of black Harleys flanked by armored trucks roaring through Sinaloa's Golden Triangle under the moonlight. Laughter echoed over the engines, followed by the click of an M4's safety being switched off. The caption read, "New Brothers. Same business." To most, it looked like cartel propaganda. But to the DEA, it was something else entirely: proof that one of the most feared biker clubs on Earth had crossed the line, not as enemies of the cartel, but as partners. Partners.
We're a little bit edgy at the moment while we do the initial meet, because these guys have never apparently done this before.
The theory was simple. When the Angels discovered the gold route near Hidalgo, they didn't back off. They saw opportunity, a chance to move product that wasn't tracked, sniffed, or measured. Unlike cocaine or meth, gold doesn't rot, doesn't require a middleman, and most importantly, it's legal once it's melted. To the Hells Angels, that was the ultimate hustle, clean crime. But to the Sinaloa cartel, it was something even better: camouflage. The US government had been choking their drug pipelines, freezing accounts, and shutting down ports. But gold moved quietly. No dogs, no scanners, no customs alerts. So when both worlds collided at the Texas border, a deal was struck in the shadows. The Angels would provide logistics, trucks, mechanics, warehouses, and safe US drop points. The cartel would supply the gold smelted from illegal Colombian mines, washed through shell companies, and delivered through cartel-controlled refineries near Riosa and Nuevo Laredo. Together, they'd move billions under the government's nose. It started with one truck, then 2, then 10. Each one painted plain white with US company logos that didn't exist. The drivers were bikers, patched in, armed, loyal. They were told the cargo was scrap equipment, recycled metals. But hidden beneath that facade were bars of Colombian gold worth over $80 million per shipment. Each bar stamped with falsified refinery codes from Bogotá and Medellin. According to Homeland Security officials, the value of illicit gold smuggling now exceeds cocaine profits. Some loads reaching over $900,000 per ton. All used to launder narco cash into legitimate U.S. markets. The Angels were no strangers to moving illicit cargo, guns, drugs, motorcycles, but this was different. It was clean, sophisticated, global, and at the top of it all was a man known only as Reaper Dave. Reaper Dave was a Texas native, former oil field foreman turned biker boss. He'd been part of the Angels' Houston charter since the late 2000s. Known for his discipline and his obsession with military tactics. But what made him dangerous wasn't the violence. It was the business sense. He understood border trade, import, shipping manifests. He knew how to make money disappear. To the cartel, he was an asset. To the Angels, he was a necessary evil. And to federal agents, he was a nightmare. Within months of the alleged alliance, federal intelligence began detecting strange financial flows between Mexican shell companies and U.S. storage depots along the border. One name kept appearing on the paperwork. Red Skull Metals LLC, a small-time scrapyard out of McAllen that, according to business records, suddenly exploded in revenue from $200,000 to $46 million in less than a year. The address, a warehouse once leased by a motorcycle restoration club. Meanwhile, whispers began to spread among the biker community. Some said the Angels had crossed a line, that they weren't just smuggling or fighting turf wars anymore. They were moving the cartel's blood money. Others saw it differently. It's not the 60s anymore. One member allegedly said at a rally in Arizona. The drugs got heat. Gold's the new gas.
Gold is smuggled out of Colombia and brought here to the United States to sell the gold to fund international criminal organizations.